It started with a seed, plunged into the high desert soil at the foot of the Tetons. A string tied high so the ambitions of a plant could flower. Drops of rain dampen soil. Water is the life giver, the building block of beer, and the only liquid humans consume more than it. Barley has exploded throughout southeastern Idaho.
There's 3 large malting facilities within 45 miles of each other. That just speaks to the quality of the barley that's available. I wouldn't be surprised if this amount of malt capacity this close together is nowhere else to be found, probably in the world.
In southwestern Idaho, near the Oregon border, the hops fields that have clung to their strings and anonymity for years are now spreading and conquering the globe.
I think hops are a lot like grapes. That's really where we see the regional influence.
It's all just about the aromatics and the flavor. We live in a state where we've got barley and hops right close by. And to have access to that and not take advantage of that is foolish, I think.
Entrepreneurial scientists dive into an ancient art.
The chemistry hasn't changed, but the way that we do things have changed.
You can take basically 4 ingredients and you can create hundreds and hundreds of different recipes that all taste completely different.
Outdoor Idaho explores how 2 simple plants and the ancient art of brewing turned a budding industry into an economic and social phenomenon.
Funding for Outdoor Idaho is made possible by the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore and Bettis family legacy of building the great state of Idaho, by the Friends of Idaho Public Television, by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
The first miners into Idaho often carried with them hop seeds buried deep in their knapsacks. Little did they know that 150 years later, Idaho would be a leader in producing one of humanity's favorite drinks. Hi, I'm Bruce Reichert, and welcome to Outdoor Idaho. Believe it or not, Idaho produces some great beer, lots of it. In fact, the blending of hops and barley and water has created one heck of an Idaho story.
Let's do it.
At first glance, Derek Reed, Penny Pink, and Nate Jackson have little in common.
I've got, farmers in my family tree going back on both sides quite a ways. Not drinking alcohol is a choice I make, but, other people can make their own choices.
My education and training is in microbiology and analytical chemistry. There's something that I just enjoy about that laboratory work.
I was envisioning this old hop farmer coming down and checking, showing us his hops, and Nate jumps out of the truck. I was like, who's this guy,
However, that Mormon farmer, that scientist, and that young man in a trucker hat share a common goal, making the best beer possible. One of the building blocks of beer is barley, and eastern Idaho is the gem of the barley malting industry.
In North America, Idaho is famous for the quality of the potatoes that they produce. But I can tell you that in the world, the quality of barley that Idaho produces is world famous.
The Barley Triangle is as old as the state. It runs northeast from Idaho Falls through Rexburg and over to Victor, and then back down to the Portneuf Valley.
A little bit of barley has always been grown in the area. Back in the day, everyone was a farmer. This farm here, my great-grandpa, Charlie Reed, started it.
Derek Reed follows in his family's footsteps, joining the increasing number of eastern Idaho farmers growing malt barley.
I loved it always growing up. I loved being out here with my dad. I've always loved just the beauty and the peace out here in the area. I think I kind of always thought that I wanted to farm.
From the time that beer was first crafted in ancient Mesopotamia to today, the story of hops and barley has continued to evolve. Mormon settlers moved west, fleeing religious persecution in the late 1800s. As they settled around southeastern Idaho, they started to cultivate crops, including barley. And soon the Barley Triangle was born.
They had to have a crop that would grow. It was natural that it would become one of the main crops grown in Idaho because of our elevation and our arid environment.
Barley was a perfect marriage with the high desert climate, but a complicated bedfellow for members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
And I know that there are some people, even non-LDS people, but religious people who won't grow malt barley. Typically I just buy it. For me, I'm happy to grow a quality crop and make hopefully it turns into a quality beer in the end.
This is an agricultural area, agricultural community, and people understand that in a region like this, agriculture is what makes the wheels turn and what makes the world go round. Whether it's corn for ethanol or malt barley to produce beer, it's all part of the agriculture industry that feeds and keeps Idaho thriving and alive.
In the middle of the last century, August Bush III purchased a cabin in Driggs, Idaho. The surrounding soil and climate was the perfect habitat he was looking for. Crop rotations had paired barley with the more famous Idaho potato crops for decades. But Bush wanted barley to take center stage.
August Bush made a conscious decision to come to eastern Idaho himself and survey the landscape, and he fell in love with this eastern Idaho area and decided that he wanted to make this one of his prime sources of malt barley. Consequently, their family invested a lot of money in a procurement elevator and built a huge malt plant in Idaho Falls.
Miller and Coors were also interested. In the late 1980s, the Northern Plains suffered a catastrophic loss to their barley crop, and eastern Idaho was there to take over.
That production needed to go someplace, and Idaho was a prime place for it to come.
The Barley Triangle has been an Idaho gem ever since.
Towards the end of March, we'll start turning some soil and planting barley. Hopefully, if we get some spring rains, it doesn't need to be watered. And so we just wait for it to come up and start growing.
Growing barley is 1 part preparation, 1 part maintenance, and 50 parts prayer.
As good of farmers as we think we are, we can do everything right, but Mother Nature's got to cooperate. And when she doesn't cooperate, it can be challenging.
From now until that grain's cut, anytime I see a cloud, I start worrying. So you can have a crop, and then 10 minutes later, it could be gone.
From the barley grown in this area, the Anheuser-Busch, Modelo, and Great Western malting plants produce more malt than just about anywhere in the world.
Most of our grain comes from Great Western. We really do live in the center of the ingredients for what's available for beer. It's pretty amazing.
Barley is transformed in the malting process.
The malting procedure has been around for years and years.
Grains of barley are harvested from fields, separated from the chaff, and soaked in water. The industry calls this steeping. The process allows barley to germinate.
When we're managing the steeping process, we have to manage to the variety, to the crop year, to the customer specification.
It is during this process that the tiny grains are given a second chance at life, albeit a much shorter life. It is here that the barley becomes sweet and the sugars develop.
It's in here for approximately 4 days where the grain, which has the proper moisture content, begins to grow and modify and make those changes inside the kernel that the brewer needs.
Then the second life of barley is cut short in the heat of the kiln. The fiery air ends its second growth.
You've got to control the applied air temperature, you've got to control the air off temperature, you've got to control the moisture, and in kilning exactly the same thing. You've got to control all those variables so that you hit that consistency that the brewers are looking for.
On the opposite side of the state, near Wilder, you find the modern star of today's beer, hops. Of course, it's anything but new. German prospectors flocked to mines throughout Idaho, bringing with them a thirst for beer and a plant called hops. Hops can still be seen climbing shacks in old Idaho mining towns. The plants work as a time machine of flavor, isolated from genetic mutation. Like Darwin's finches in the Galapagos, these hops are untouched by outside genetics, on their own for over a century.
Spending some time in Europe, those guys laugh at us when you're talking 2 or 3, 4 or 5 generation growers. I mean, some of those guys have been growing hops for 25 generations.
Nestled into a bend on the Snake River, just feet from the Oregon border, Nate Jackson is utilizing a different lesson from Darwin.
I've always been a beer lover. I've always loved hops. I've spent most of my life out here in Wilder and in the hop fields. And the aroma of the hops was always really intriguing, really powerful.
Jackson has created several new distinctly Idaho hops, but the most popular innovation bears our state's name, the Idaho 7.
All that aroma and flavor is coming from that wet hop.
We made several crosses back in 2009, grew them out in 2010. And Idaho 7 was the 7th lucky 7.
It's all just about the aromatics and the flavor with this hop.
It's just a different flavor. It's totally unique, that hop is.
A hops grower shares many of the characteristics of a rancher. The hops need a nice plot of land. Their movement needs to be guided. And once the first shoots break the surface of the earth, they need direction. Hops want to climb, so they're given a string to ascend.
We have to come through by hand and wrap the vine on the string.
In the heat of the summer, hops can grow almost a foot a day, rising over 20 feet in the air. When they are fully matured, they are harvested. And brewers from around the country descend on Nate's farm for a chance at fresh Idaho 7s. The thirst for Idaho hops grew into a new endeavor. Mill 95 recently opened its doors. It's a hop processing plant that will allow more uniquely Idaho hops to flavor beers throughout the globe. But Idaho is not only a boutique hop industry. North Idaho is home to arguably the largest hops ranch in the world, owned by one of the largest beer companies in the world, Anheuser-Busch. One doesn't often think of Budweiser or Bud Light as being a local beer, but with hops from north of Sandpoint and barley from Rexburg, it would be hard to find a beverage more rooted in the state. And brewing in Idaho reflects the spirit of the state. Breweries are small, community-focused, and operated with a lot of Western astuteness. They're not inspired by money, but simply by a good sip.
A friend of mine bought me a Bridgeport IPA. Then I drank it and I was just like, wow, what is this? This is it. And that was literally the beginning of my love affair with craft beer. Just this rich, bold mouthfeel. It was citrusy, it was grapefruit and a little pine, and I just remember it was bitter and thinking, this is what beer should taste like.
The University of Idaho is attempting to cultivate that passion with a fermentation program, giving Graham Lilly the science to back up his fervor.
Took a microbiology class and I thought, wow, this is really cool. So I pursued that avenue, and that was when my science education kind of started to blend with my brewing education as a home brewer. They just went really well together, and that's kind of where that love affair began.
That love affair grew into Hunga Dunga Brewery.
I actually didn't really feel like it was a feasible thing. It seemed like a cool idea, but it never felt like something that I could actually do. Then a friend of mine, we brewed a lot together, and we sort of went down that road visiting that idea, and then right about the time I was graduating, we just decided to go for it. It was either more school or open a brewery, and it took about as much time to open a brewery as it would have to get a graduate degree.
Idaho has more than 60 breweries. Not every brewer has academic training, but every brewer is familiar with the ancient arts. Grand Teton Brewing has been making artful beers for decades.
It's definitely a huge amount of art involved, and I think almost more art than science and math.
The brewing steps are basic and few, but Penny Pink of Portneuf Valley Brewing believes the outcomes are limitless.
You can take basically 4 ingredients and you can create hundreds and hundreds of different recipes that all taste completely different.
First, the malt is milled. Tiny grains of barley are crushed to release their sugars. Hot water is added to the ground-up malt to create a gritty liquid called mash.
When we're brewing, we're making barley tea.
The mash is strained to remove the solid husks of barley from the sweetened liquid.
So all the barley stays on top. All that sweet liquid we made from the mash process goes out through the screens, leaving the barley behind.
The mixture is brought to a boil, then hops are added to flavor the golden brew, creating a liquid called wort.
Start to break those hops down, and then it kind of slowly slows down. Keep that thing rolling hard.
The wort is then strained, and any remaining solid debris of hops or barley are removed from the liquid.
And then we chill it and we ferment the liquid with yeast, and that gives us our beer.
The beer is then set aside to mature and develop its flavor. When it's done maturing, the beer is carbonated and ready to consume.
It's all science. I mean, you can dive as hard and as deep as you want into it. Those types of things get very expensive because you need equipment and essentially building a laboratory to produce beer, but the art really comes into the conceptualizing of the flavors and the styles and how various hops and flavors might work with other styles that are out there, and then maybe some that are not. You can't do the art without the science, and vice versa.
90% of the job is cleaning, and the brewing is not the tough aspect. A lot of the hard part is maintaining fermentation. So a lot of the magic happens right here in the cellar. The brewers are just making sugar water, ultimately.
Once the beer has been fermented, it can be bottled and sold. It can, however, take another journey, transferred to a wine or whiskey barrel to develop even more character.
It just adds more flavors, more dimension to it.
Restaurateur Jeff May explored the result with their barrel master, Ben Nelson.
We put it into the barrel just so we can get that extra depth of character, get a lot of whiskeys and those vanillas, those oak, that burnt wood flavor is really what we're shooting for. Once we find a barrel that's producing a lot of flavors, try and pull our best beers out of that.
So whiskey right up front, vanilla, and then you still getting going in and getting some of the darker fruits from the quad.
Yep. Oh, damn, that's tasting really good right now, actually.
That is really good. Even with Black Alder, which is a complex beer as it is, but this just adds more flavors, more dimension to it. See, and I get vanilla right away.
That's drinking smooth too. Yeah. Bit of wood on it. Doesn't taste like 14%, I'll tell you that much.
There's no alcohol burn at all. Super chocolatey, too.
Oh man, this is really good
How long
right
has
now.
that been in the barrels?
This one's been in since for a year now. I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Beer is the second most consumed beverage in the world, after water. And its primary function throughout history was never euphoria or drunkenness, though some may like the effects. Its real function was health and safety. Professor Unlu teaches fermentation at the University of Idaho.
Observing that these products are safe, maybe safer than some other ones, and also observing that they are tasty.
The brewing process works to cleanse liquid by killing off harmful bacteria. That allowed people to sterilize water long before they knew the science behind what they were doing. For most of civilization, brewers were women. They had access to the barley, yeast, water, and hops.
It makes a lot of sense because in most cultures, especially those days, really females were in charge of, cooking and feeding their families, and this also gave them some economical power that perhaps they needed at the time.
Women were allowed few jobs back then and fewer opportunities to sell their creations. But beer was the exception. Beer was one of the few options a woman had for financial independence.
Historically, if you look back, it was often the women who were the brewsters and baked the bread, brewed the beer, and supplied for their families and the communities that they lived in.
A woman only needed the ingredients, a cauldron to brew in, a cat to keep the mice away, and a broomstick above her door, or a black hat in the market to signify she had beer for sale. Women had only one competitor in the beer markets, Catholic monks, and they had a powerful ally, God. When the church attempted to rid Europe of infidels, it also decided to give witchcraft a new look. The aesthetic of witchcraft was created from the clothing and the tools women used to brew beer. Grand Teton created a Black Cauldron Imperial Stout as a tribute to this history.
A lot of girls aren't really exposed to brewing as a career option. So I'd encourage any other gals that are interested in getting into it to jump in the ring. It's fun and it's interesting.
In the early 1900s, the beer industry thrived in Idaho and throughout the United States. But in 1920, Prohibition forced most of Idaho's breweries underground or completely out of business.
Pre-Prohibition, there was a lot, and then most of them didn't make it past the Prohibition. They weren't able to sell soda or whatever they did to stay alive.
Local beer in Idaho disappeared for half a century. But in the 1970s, everything changed with the stroke of a president's pen.
Hi everybody, good to see you.
Carter legalized home brewing. So then you get a bunch of yahoos like me in on the game. And so you've got a bunch of your early pioneers that are jumping into commercially making beer and competing with the big boys. Kind of a return, that full circle back to, okay, we're not trying to conquer the whole world, but let's try to conquer our neighborhood. And that's a grand tradition. And nationally, it seems to have taken off.
The beer revolution we see in Idaho today can be traced back to Jimmy Carter. And one of the biggest innovations in beer consumption can be traced to Grand Teton's first owner, Charlie Otto and his dad.
His dad talked about how they used to get beer in the early days in this country with an enamel steel pan and a lid called the growler. Because when you were walking home with it, the CO2 releasing off the beer would make the lid flutter. So Charlie's first growler was the clear glass 64-ounce jug. Test in the market, that worked, so we moved to amber, and the growler was born in the U.S.
Oh yeah? Excellent, cheers.
The beer market has gotten competitive in recent years. What seemed like an unending expansion has slowed considerably. One might expect the competition to heat up, but craft brewing in Idaho is more like a community.
I think there's a lot of camaraderie amongst the brewers.
There you go.
Certainly in this state.
The small communities supporting these places, which is why you see a brewery in every town. 300 people versus 300,000. They're popping up everywhere.
The brewers in Idaho stick together, and hops and barley have become an integral part of the state. Oh sure, people may stop drinking a certain type of Idaho beer, but history suggests they will never stop drinking local beer or growing Idaho hops and barley.
Funding for Outdoor Idaho is made possible by the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore and Bettis family legacy of building the great state of Idaho, by the Friends of Idaho Public Television, by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. To find more information about these shows, visit us at IdahoPTV.org.